and welcome to the next part in the tutorial on MCC, Zeus, and Ares for BWC dynamic combat operations. This is our approach to it. It may not necessarily be yours, but in this one I'll be going over mainly technical aspects. I may have a little bit of information thrown in. The next tutorial will be going over more mission building. This one is simply going over technical aspects of the MCC screen. We can open this by clicking the MCC button. When you open it, you'll see this screen in front of you. If nobody is logged in, you are able to log in. Important note, if you are an admin on your server, you can kick whoever's out of the mission maker spot automatically. So it's a very nice feature in MCC. If any of this interface looks hard to read for you, buttons and words are getting cut off, you need to change your interface size, which is very simple by going to Configure, Video, Display, and Interface Size here. The important thing to note is that MCC is done with a certain aspect resolution in mind and very certain resolution size, so you have to change the interface size for certain resolutions, down to small or even very small, in order for you to see everything. So anyways, let's get back in here. Our top bar is very simple. We have factions that we can choose from, which we went over in the 3D editor. You need to know what faction you are choosing at all times, so this requires you to do a little bit of kind of just pre-study and pre-work, understanding what each one is. Occasionally mods use the same class name. Unfortunately, this does cause some issues. As we can see, we have like this USMC West area here actually doesn't really spawn anything, so it's a placeholder for weapons only, unfortunately. The next buttons we have up are Mission 1, Mission Failed. You can see they're red and green, so it's very, very important. If you press them, it will end the mission. The mission will be over, and you will no longer be able to do anything. This will end the screen and take everybody back into the initial mission development screen. Next up, we have Ghost Mode. With Ghost Mode, this makes you untargetable by enemies. However, you are still able to take bullets. I recommend using Ares Go Invisible if you have it instead, as that will make you invulnerable as well. This one does not, currently anyways. The camera is basically for filming. It's got some really cool stuff in it. We're not really going to go over it, simply because it's if you're interested in filming, you can spend time looking at it. It's got all the buttons on the interface. And then teleport. This teleports you personally around. It's very quick for you to get around if you need to. You can see around the thing that we're teleporting, and it's teleporting our unit. Alright. The next thing we're going to go over is we'll go down the we're going to go down the left bar, go over the middle, and then go down the right bar, or go up the right bar. So the very first thing we want to talk about is spawning units. We're going to switch to a faction that actually has some units we want to spawn. So let's pick one I don't have a lot of stuff set up for. Let's go with USA Army, since they're not going to shoot us. Spawn under us. So we're going to go ahead and click spawn, and we're going to do very simple. We're just going to put a unit down, we're going to put an weapon as an infantry, and we'll say he's a rifleman, and we're not going to worry about his behavior right now because he's not attached to anything. This is only if he's going to be under Gaia control. And location, we have headless clients set up in BWC. If you don't have headless clients set up if you don't have headless clients set up, checking this on does nothing. It reverts it back to server. So I would recommend leaving it on server though, if you don't have headless clients set up. So we're going to go ahead and just click create. and we see that it has created a rifleman for us. Let's see, Jack Jones has been created, and he's going to be just sitting here just like we would create him in as if we'd created him in Zeus. So, all in all, not that much different from Zeus so far. We can see that there is a C in his name as opposed to ours, and he's a bit of a darker shade of blue. This is the difference between players and AI. Players are going to be this lighter shade of blue, AI are going to be the heavier shade of blue. Same thing applies to all the other factions as well. The C in front of his name means that he's cached. If we go a certain distance away from him, he will in fact be cached from us. He will in fact disappear from the screen until a player gets within a certain distance, which can be preset, and then he will spawn. This reduces server load. So let's go ahead and go a little more over the spawn interface. Because obviously it's pretty simplistic right now, and you're going, okay, well, that's not important. So we can see we have type units or groups, and we have our branch, which is very similar, and obviously the class, pretty obvious to understand. So we're going to go ahead and go to groups. We see we have our basic group set up, and you know we can put down our basic squads, and it's all fancy and everything. It's just going to create a squad for us. The other thing we can do is just as in Zeus, holding down Control, and spawn multiple units. This is useful for your basic setup of your mission. Obviously, we have a lot of guys spawn down. So now we have a zone drop down. We have these spawn and zone button in units as well. So if we just click spawn and zone, we're on zone 2, which we can see down here. We highlight in yellow. I click spawn and zone. It's going to randomly spawn this unit in the zone somewhere, and it's going to attach them to Gaia with whatever command we gave him to. In this case, it's aggressive. And we can see after a minute he'll be given an order, or if Gaia believes he's in a good area, they'll let him there. Yep, and there he goes. He gets an order. Alright, so obviously we have several different behaviors. What do all these behaviors mean before we go into spawning unit types? Behaviors are pretty simple. Aggressive means they will attack out from the zone. A decent way, it depends on how large the zone is. The larger the zone, the larger they'll attack out. Defensive means they will only try and attack things within the zone, and they won't try and leave the zone. So they're trying to defend right around where the objective is. Fortify, and I need to stress that this is not something you should use often. Will attempt to fortify buildings and bunkers and the like in the area. Unfortunately, sometimes this bugs out and the units literally just stand there and they won't turn around. They don't like to unfortify. That's just kind of weird. None-stance just kind of doesn't attach them to Gaia. Sorry. We'll just spawn them in and they'll just sit there. They won't do anything. They won't move and they won't do anything until commands start coming in. Biz Defense, I'm not a huge fan of. It kind of just does a dynamic defense. The defensive one is a lot better. And Biz Patrol is actually really cool. It sets up an automatic random patrol route inside or near the zone. And as we can see, that's what it did with this unit. It's going to move here, then move here, then move here, then move here, then move back to the cycle marker and restart it. We can see he has the marker P, which means he's on patrol. Sorry, between, yeah, anyways. He's attached to player patrol, so we'll learn more what that means in a bit. Anyways, so this is all well and dandy. Let's move back into groups. Obviously, you kind of know what the behaviors mean. Very basic. We're going to go into groups, garrison. See that we only have a few options: light with vehicles, heavy with vehicles. You can make sure your faction actually has vehicles attached to it that can be used. Otherwise, spawning vehicles isn't going to do anything, and it could cause some problems. Garrison on low-end servers can cause issues, so do be aware of that. We're not using Garrison that much. It's kind of like a cheap out for spawning stuff in. Alright, there we go. Starting to spawn stuff in. So we can see it automatically just spawned us units in. And if we go in, we can see they're inside buildings, and they're put up in somewhat defensive locations. It basically puts a shitload of units down on Fortify command. The problem I have with this is, as you can see, every unit is individual. They're not attached to any larger group. And units not in groups can cause some issues. They're not, sorry, they don't cause issues. They're not as effective. Lone units are just not that great. They'll occasionally move around and adjust, but for the most part, they stay pretty static on Garrison. I'm not a huge fan of using the Garrison button, but that's basically what it does. Obviously, with vehicles, we'll put vehicles into a defensive position as well. Lastly, we have this custom group. Now, until this time, obviously I have nothing in here. I don't have a custom U.S. Army Woodland group. I have some for our aggressor factions, not really much for our friendly ones. So we're going to go ahead and go back to units type. We're going to go to infantry, and obviously we want a squad leader first. We're going to click add to list. We see him over here, and we're going to go ahead and go. All right, well he needs a. We're going to give him a grenadier as a 2 IC. So we'll add a grenadier. Alright, why don't we give you a rifle pair 2, and let's give you an auto rifleman, and we'll give you a team leader, we'll give you a medic, and we'll give you a couple more riflemen, and then we'll give you a rifleman. Rifleman M136. Give him a couple of those guys. We can see all these units have been added over here. So we're going to save this as a standard squad. See, I typed standard squad in there. If you can't see it, I apologize. And I'm going to click save as custom. We can see group saved as custom successfully. Let's go over back to groups. We'll go back to custom. We see standard squad 11 units. I'll spawn this unit out on the airfield and teleport over to them. And we see this is actually spawned in our standard squad setup. They're going to automatically go into wedge formation, as is standard with all Arma units when they first come in. So we got all our units, and it's cool and kick-ass. So this is really good for when you don't like default squad comps. Which, for the most part, I don't. So, I like having a lot of custom groups. These will save and be with you forever. Alright, that is pretty much it. You can clear the list, you can create your own whatever name for it, as long as you can remember it. You can curate like a notepad thing for it. Whatever you need to do. So, this is basically empty. I kind of went over this with basically if you're going to spawn a vehicle, you can just straight up spawn it empty. So, or like a ammo crate if you're not going to spawn it with the 3D editor. So, I would recommend placing vehicles in 3D editor so you don't run into any hitches or issues. Okay, so that's the spawn menu. So now that we have units, we're going to go ahead and take a look at them on the interface here, rather than go into everything else first. So we're going to take a look at, and we'll go down to the unit down here with us. Right-clicking the unit tells us who's in charge of it, which is private right. We can see that they're in an aware stance. We can see how many people, what strength the unit is at. It's got 11 people. We can say which zone to attach it to if we want, and what we want attached to. so we can attach them to whatever. Next up, other things we can do on this interface. By left-clicking, we can do move, destroy, get in, search and destroy, etc. I think because they were on their respawn area, they didn't want to do anything. So we're going to move this unit all the way over here. We're going to tell them to move in a staggered column. We're going to tell them to go full. And we're going to tell them to be just aware. Now, you see two buttons here. You see add and replace. When a unit is under Gaia control, you need to replace to get them out of Gaia control if you want to give them an order. If you add, Gaia's going to overwrite your order because they're going to go, that's a stupid order. We see the unit has gotten rid of their Gaia tag, and they are now moving into a staggered column formation. And they're attempting to get into a staggered column formation as they move anyways. And they're going to go ahead and move to the objective. Now, these guys are still in the process of dying out. When they all die out, I think they'll respawn. That's what's happening. If they're unconscious. That's probably what's up. Or not. Okay. I think it's doing a timer. Anyways. We'll see the move marker disappear. This happens occasionally. If it does. Adding will add new waypoint markers. And we can see there's a lot of different types as opposed to Zeus. We have search and destroy, get in, join group, get out, cycle waypoints. So we can tell them to cycle waypoint here. They'll redo all their waypoints and move in this kind of in this shape of a patrol. So MCC definitely is a better way of setting up patrol routes and whatnot. Using the replace feature, we can get rid of all of them. And ta-da. Right. That's basically it for that interface. If you don't know what each of these missions mean, type. We have move, destroy. Move is just straight up move in. Destroy, they're going to attempt to destroy something in that area. This means for units that use RPGs, mortars, explosives, they're going to shoot a lot of them in that area. Even if there's nothing there sometimes. Get in, they'll attempt to get in a vehicle that's there. Search and destroy, it's pretty obvious. They'll get to a location and they're going to fan out and search. Join group is leader. These are mainly for individual units as opposed to groups. They'll go to a waypoint and attempt to join a group at that waypoint. Get out, it's pretty obvious. Cycle waypoints, again, pretty obvious. It'll cycle all the waypoints that they have just gone through. Not all waypoints in existence. It's very important to note. Load, they will load into any vehicle that's there. Unload, they'll unload into from a vehicle. In case you're wondering the difference between these two. Get out and unload, because some people don't understand this. Get out will have the unit completely remove themselves from the vehicle. This is if you are having them drive a truck. You don't want them obviously driving the truck into combat, so you can tell them to get out of the truck and then move into combat. Unload would be, let's say they are in you have a mechanized unit, so you have a unit with a Bradley with an IFV, and there's infantry in the back of it. They're going to unload the troops from the back, leave all the crewman slots in, and then keep advancing. Troops unload the same way. Sorry, unload will unload everything but the driver. Troops unload will unload everything but crew. So I'll apologize on that. Hopefully this thing will respawn soon. And then lastly we have hold. Pretty obvious, they're just going to move there and hold. You have hold, sentry, guard. Hold, they're going to try and hold they're just basically going to hold at that waypoint. Sentry, they will go to an area and say, okay, well, we believe that tower over there is good for us to sit in, or this hill to our west is better to sit on to watch this position. And guard is they're going to basically dynamically guard a position. They generally don't go too far from guard. Get in nearest, they're going to try and find a vehicle to get in. Dismiss, you don't want to use. Then helicopter, these are for helicopters only, for obvious reasons, and then artillery for fire missions is for artillery. Okay. So that's basically giving your units orders. So let's move on to CAS. In this one we're going to switch over to NATO West because they have a lot of CAS options. So let's go ahead and click CAS. We can see they have some CAS options, the Hornets, A-10 Thunderbolts, all that wonderful stuff. We see we have a lot of different things. We have bombing runs, LGB runs, JDAM runs. These things, they're not the most stable. If you have a pilot, it is better to do. These aren't that great, and I'm going to show why in a second here. Let's go ahead and have them bomb this. All we do is click call, and then you left click and drag to mark the direction and the area in which you want them to hit. So we're going to go ahead and hit this, and you can see, I mean, it spawns them pretty close for jets. We can watch their call signs fly. We can see there's 2 jets there. And they're going to be on a bombing run. They spawn close, which is a big problem that they have with it. And today they're not going to be lagging. But occasionally they sit there and bug out. Yep, there we go. They drop bombs. Yay. Okay. Obviously, there's a lot of options in here. I would have pros using this if you have somebody that can do player CAS as much as possible. But they're there if you have nobody that can, or if you wanted to add some immersion. It's generally not a great idea to have players call that in, though. If you wanted to have them call it in, you could add it to the MCC Council, which we'll go over in a later tutorial bit. Supply drop. This can be cool, but again, it currently uses default Arma 3 assets to get them in. Well, I'll show you what that means in a second. I'm going to add that to the list, and right now we have a current drop of just 1 Humvee. I'm going to call and drop it right on the airfield. While that's coming in, we're going to go over the artillery menu. We can add, we can add whatever we want to the supply drop. There's a lot of stuff in it: vehicles, track, motorcycles, ships, ammo. We can drop a lot of stuff. Right. Artillery. It's pretty simple. You have your artillery types. If you don't know what these mean, you can do some independent research and figure out what they all mean. So we're going to drop HE 82mm. Your next is your spread. You can see on targets, pretty on target. About 100-meter-ish spread. Precise goes a little bit farther. Tight goes a little farther. Tight goes a lot farther. And wide goes pretty damn far. So it gives you some nice random artillery in the area. So as we can see, this is using an independent Mohawk to fly them in. If you have like air in the area, or like player air, they're going to see that and go, well, that's stupid. And on top of that, it shows up as independent. So you can see how it's green here. That means it's not actually friendly blue 4. So you have A in the area and independence marked as enemy, they will actually shoot down your supply drop. Hence why I do not use it. But it's kind of cool because it adds in like the 4 parachutes and parachute stuff in, which is awesome. Again, there's fixes incoming for that stuff. And the helicopter will disappear after a time to save on server memory space. Anyways, back to artillery. You have number of shells. This will tell you how many shells will drop. So we'll do precise. We want to drop 3 shells, and we want to drop them 20 seconds apart. I call the artillery. And this power plant. And we can see we got 1. And in another 20 seconds, We'll get another one, and I'm going to talk while it's dropping. I don't like using MCC artillery. I also don't like using Zeus artillery that often. The reason being, I like the artillery to actually be on the map. I like the players to actually be able to find the artillery and kill it. In my opinion, that's a lot more immersive, and it also gives you realistic artillery ranges and realistic artillery dispersion based on the settings of the map. If there's high winds, high rain, it can cause some issues to mortar rounds and whatnot. So I prefer that stuff to be on. But this is here if you don't want that, it can be useful. What it's very useful for is flares, setting those up on auto. Mainly setting up for enemy flares, setting it all the way up to 30 and setting them on like a 40-second delay, so you can have constant flare dropage in the area. Because the enemies don't use flares that often, and if you don't have them with NVGs at night, they're not going to be able to see anything. Next up we have evac. This menu is really cool. Can be. Again, if you have a player that can fly, or if you personally can fly, it's a lot better to do that than it is to try and set this up. But if you have nobody in your community that can fly, or nobody on at the current time, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's all pretty obvious. Spawn the helicopter. You can see it's there, and then we go, okay, evac, which is now on here. We go, alright, we're gonna do freelance, it's kind of evac insertion, so we're going to do free landing, engine off. We're going to do flight height, which is, I mean, it's pretty obvious to understand. We can tell it to fly there, and then we're going to have it land right there. So at max you can give it 3 waypoints, and we can see that it's going to give it the move markers. It's going to move there, then there, then there. The 3 waypoints is useful if you want to like fly around an area. So we could go, we want to put a waypoint here, so it flies north, and then east, and then south, so it comes in that direction as opposed to flying immediately. Or you just do the 1 waypoint and go out a beeline. And it'll free land, engine off in the area. It'll attempt to land at the best possible location in that area. So, okay. Evac can also be vehicles, tracked, ships. You can do anything with it. Obviously, vehicles are slightly different. They have engine on, engine off. Same thing with boats. Don't spawn the Nimitz in here. Of course, some other stuff. And there he goes, free land, and he's so. Cool little thing, and you can see he didn't land exactly on the waypoint. He picked a dynamic land spot. The cool thing with this, where is it? Helicopters. Smoke signal. You can actually pop a smoke signal, and he'll land at it. So, it's cool. When you see the helicopter coming in close, you can pop a smoke signal, and it'll try to dynamically land her on the smoke. Which is pretty cool. It's AC-130. All this does is drop AC-130. You have to use it to the commander console. Brushes, very important, and I'll show you why. Let's do a quick server cleanup. We're going to delete everything. Yay! Everything's gone. You'll see things like the evac waypoints, and these things are still there, but we have a bunch of other delete brushes we can use. The biggest ones you're probably going to use is markers. I don't know if I'll actually get rid of those. No. Those aren't markers. Dead bodies is a good one to use. This is kind of what I call server cleanup. Probably about every, depending on how many units you have going down, AI you have going down, your player's FPS starts to drop. Just doing a quick dead body cleanup like every 40 minutes to an hour can just help keep FPS performance at a decent amount. You kind of want to do it at like if you're taking a break or after your units leave like an area. You try and not want to delete units right in front of them or right around them as much as possible. Again, if you're having matched up FPS performance, you gotta do what you gotta do. Alright. Destroy lights. Pretty obvious. Lock doors. This locks them. You have to have MCC interaction on to put them back on. You can have it random or all. So if you want like random doors locked throughout a city, just put random. And then you have, sorry, your atmospheres. Warzone is probably the coolest in my opinion. Sandstorm, Blizzard, Heatwave are kind of cool. They just basically put a filter on the screen and add some effects. We're going to do Warzone over this entire area. Oh, there we go. Alright, so Warzone, yeah. Alright, so we can see it added a bunch of burning vehicle wrecks and destroyed a bunch of buildings. Basically just turns the whole area into a fucking, looks like it's just been a combat zone. So it's really cool. Add stuff like this in, and it just adds a lot of vehicles and burning wrecks and stuff. And you can see, I mean, it looks like it's just been a massive battlefield here. Really cool. Alright, that's pretty much it for brushes. Pretty easy. Enable, disable rules. I'm not going to go over this. This requires you to have a database set up that you understand how that works. That's on you to kind of learn. Zeus, it's pretty obvious. Just open Zeus. And then Arsenal is your own personal arsenal. Okay. So moving down, let's go ahead and spawn. Oops. So we have something to play with here. Alright. Create zone. So you guys saw me doing this earlier. It's pretty obvious. You create and drop a zone. You can make it as big or as small as you want to. It can only be in square or rectangles, though unfortunately you can't do elliptical zones at this point. When you drop a zone, if you were spawning units in zone, be very careful. Yep, that's why right there. It'll occasionally just spawn a unit in the zone. So it has problems like that. Right. Down here, we can select our zone. We can also click the zone on the map. And whichever one is highlighted is what we're going to be working with currently. And we have basic behaviors down here. Again, you can do this by just clicking them, and we can select multiple ones. We select these guys. We're going to give them to Gaia Aggressive. You see they switch over, they hit the G in front of their name now. And in a minute, she's going to go and move them aggressive into the zone. This is how you kind of set up assaults under under Gaia. You can drop zones. You can create them as large as you want, so you can have really large zones and go, Gaia, you can assault this entire area. Anything in this area she'll set up, like recon, scouts, all that wonderful stuff. So, she's actually pretty intelligent. There's a help menu down here. It has a lot of stuff on it. Definitely recommend taking a look at it. So, you can move the zones around. We can resize the zone. We can rotate the zone. Like, all this stuff is down here. It's pretty obvious stuff. Alright. So you have give to player, give to Gaia. Give to player is only if you have people using handheld console. Again, I'll be doing that in a later tutorial vid. We have cache group. This adds or removes them from the auto cache system. Occupy zone, I recommend not hitting. It kind of creates a bunch of zones and occupies them, and kind of like it's for a quick setup if you want to do a very quick setup. Ambient Warzone, same thing. I would not touch it. It basically puts a bunch of red dots on your map, and anytime you walk near a red dot, it will spawn zones randomly. I'm not a huge fan of it, because it spawns a lot of vehicles being there. Alright. Mission generator. This one is very cool. Let me go over this in depth, since you guys in my community have asked kind of for stuff on this. So, mission generator. We're going to drop a zone over here. Quick mission generator.
We're going to select our faction. Again, we're going to wait for the screen to reload. When we select it, we're going to say we're going to fight. Fight the guys who can fight. Actually, we'll fight Slack. We're going to wait for the screen to reload. There we go. We can see we can select what zone in here. We want it on 8. Sometimes it doesn't appear on this map, sometimes it does. I'm going to leave it on 8. We're going to set our civilians, the only civilian faction there is technically, those ones are all the placeholders. So civilian. We're going to say there is, so there's 5 players currently playing. We want it to be very hard. We want CQB without civilians. We don't want stealth. We don't want precise markers. And we're going to go with 3 randoms. There's a bunch of different missions in here you can set up, but we're going to go 3 randoms. I'm going to say no vehicles, no armor. Since they don't have armor or vehicles in that faction, checking yes can cause issues. We don't want to do reinforcements as well. We'll automatically set those up if we want. We don't want any artillery. We're going to do the intro just because I think it's awesome. We don't want IEDs. We don't want suicide bombers. All this stuff is pretty obvious. The big ones to be aware of: vehicles, armor, reinforcement, artillery. If the unit doesn't have, if the army doesn't have these, don't put these on. So be very careful with that. We're going to say yes to roadblocks, no to animals. We don't want to change the time or weather, and we just want to do the current zone, not the whole map. Oh, so that's done. We click generate mission. Now, if you are the mission creator, you are going to see this wonderful thing pop up on your screen. It's just you loading the mission. Don't do anything while this is going on. I mean, you can look around, but don't be doing anything in MCC. Don't be trying to do things with Zeus. Don't do things on your scroll wheel. Just sit, wait. All the objectives pop up. And we should get the intro in just a second.
Operation Living 3. Enemy presence in the area has been increasing, and they've taken up defensive positions inside buildings. HQ informs us that infantry are present. Also, they've established hasty checkpoints on some of the roads leading in and out of the area. That is all. Go over your objectives. Gear up, and get ready. Mission is a go.
I think that's cool. These things have things you can look at, you know. We can, oh, look, it's saying, it's giving you the information on it, and you know, this is really cool. So to kind of look at it. So we close it, and we see that up here it's giving it to us, giving us mission area. For us, we go into MCC, and we can see it's automatically spawning units for us. It hasn't spawned extra units. Spawn an armed civilian, who is our lieutenant, looks like. Yeah, it's our officer. So, you know, it's cool. So, it auto sets up triggers for us, which is over here. It's the files. Actually, I don't know what trigger that is they set up there. Anyways, you can see it's very, very quick, very simple to set up your mission. All you gotta do is create a zone where you want it, and click mission generator, fill out all the fields. It's really awesome. It's really cool. You can add more to it. So, let's say we go, okay, we want them with a little bit of forward defense. Why don't we go ahead and drop the zone and give them a couple of reservist patrols. And now we have some reservist patrols in front of it, so we can add to the mission. We don't just have to go with what they have. By adding stuff to Gaia, to her command, you know, we can make this a lot more interesting, a lot more dynamic, and a lot more harder. We can go in, add vehicles in, reinforce the choke points, areas, stuff like that. So if you can't come up with a mission, this is a great way to just create a bare bones mission for you and then build around it. Alright, next thing up, these buttons, show all units, obviously show alls. This will just limit it to players, this will limit it to West factions because we're a player. We're also West faction. So show East. Really, I think it always shows player no matter what. Independent and civilians. So it should be normal. Alright. Anyways, selecting a unit. Remember with us. See that it says our name. If I go to group, it'll just say Alpha 1. We can do various things with this. Sorry. We can teleport. Kick. This will kick from the server or ban from the server. You should not be pushing these buttons unless you know what they do. You can join, and all these things I would not use, to be honest. Tracking is useful for tracking groups and stuff. Track this player. I can now see on my map that I can see the player. That's MCC, I think. Shouldn't be able to see all these. Hold on. Oh, because I clicked track units. Turn that off. Yeah, so it tracks all units, it doesn't track the unit. So I don't know. It's up to you if you want to see this or not in here. So yeah, I mean all the stuff's in here. Deleting units, all the stuff you've seen how to do before though, in Zeus can be easier in there. Do it in here too if you want to. Parachute, Halo. Parachute has them fly in a chopper and then parachute out. Halo, I think, doesn't have them fly in yet. I think he has plans for you to actually fly out a plane up and jump out them. So, this will just spawn you up completely high in the air. I recommend not using these buttons. I wouldn't. And you have night vision thermal to look at a unit. Select a unit. Let's see him in night vision. Let's see him in thermal. Let's see him in regular. It's pretty. Save, load. Alright. This one. I'm going to be doing this in a later tutorial video. This essentially allows you to save your mission to an SQM file, and I'm going to go over how you merge SQM files in a much later tutorial that is not on dynamic combat operations. That is setting up a full 2D mission, and not so much on dynamic missions. So you can save it quickly to profile though, which will save everything you've done, including the stuff you've deleted, and reload it back in. Do that if you want. It is up to you. All you do is just type in a new name, save the profile. It'll save everything you've done. All you gotta do is jump in and load profile. If I click this and load profile, it's gonna load that mission. Make sure you are on the same map you have saved the mission. Okay. Going up the right-hand side, client side. Pretty obvious. Just your own client-side settings. Jukebox plays music or sounds. This is really useful for alarms. Alarm. We'll go in zone 3. When activate, when west is present. On activation, alarm play, blah blah, tells us what's going on. We don't hear an alarm. Let's walk into the zone. Play. So there we go. I walk out of zone. Doesn't activate. I walk in zone. It activates. Pretty basic fucking trigger setup for subs. Alright. Triggers, we're not going to go over. Essentially, it's kind of along the same line. There's a lot of presence, conditions on what happens. You have to kind of type. So, don't screw around with this if you don't know what you're doing. The triggers are completely. Right, I apologize about that. Something on the server. Anyways, tasks. Pretty simple. Create. You should put them in drop down and create a waypoint. And you can either cancel, delete, mark, failed, succeed. So we failed to complete the task. It pops up as failed. It's pretty simple. You can also do that through Zeus as well. I prefer doing it through briefing. So you can see kind of what I did there. And if we open the map, go to our briefing, we can see it popped all this stuff up. That's the situation. You can see fire support you have available, forces are available, missions available, the mission briefing if you want to have it in there. You can type all that stuff up and do it if you want to. It's pretty simple. Markers. They're pretty useful. Obviously, there's a lot of markers you can just do in Zeus, which is basically almost all of these. This doesn't really have any that doesn't have. What this does have is these. Let's go with solid. Let's go with red. We're going to call this Enemy Territory 1, ET1. We're going to say, we're going to create a brush, because that's what we're trying to do. And we've now created that this is all enemy territory, is what we're going to say, everything in red is enemy territory. Obviously this makes it hard to see the map though, because it's got a giant red filter on it. So we can go instead with border. Take ET1, we're going to delete it. We're going to say just a border, so now only a very little thin strip, actually, it's screwed with. There's a lot of stuff in here. You can do crosses, you can do diagonal, backward diagonal, like, however you want to do this. I mean, depends on what you want to do with each one. So, there's a bunch of different things, obviously, with that you can do. So, you can't have two things with the same name. Pretty simple. Yeah. You can delete things if you have issues, or you can just redo them. Moving up, debug. Unless you know what you're doing, don't use this. I hate to be blunt about that, but if you don't know how to do debug commands in Arma, I'm not going to be teaching you here. Start locations. Select your faction. Select if you want to be the primary or the fob. Generally you want it as fobs after you already have your primary set up and your insertion. Generally you want on teleport. So we create our start location, and we see that we have a new spawn point. Yay! And it spawns us near the flag. We can set up as many fobs as we want. It's important to note, fobs are destroyable. Primaries are not. So if we can respawn. We can see, yay, we have all these respawn options. Hooray! Set time. This is really cool. We're going to set it to today. Set it to kind of right around the current time. So this is what it currently should look like in Altus at this time, at this day. According to Biz, anyways. So, things obviously change from year to year with sun, moon, all that stuff. So during the winter, you know, days are shorter. During the summer, days are longer. Basic stuff. If you want more in-depth study, you can go read up about weather, or about time settings and how it affects the Earth. Weather is pretty obvious. We can make really, really good weather. We can make really crappy weather, somewhat crappy weather, really crappy weather. So, pretty simple. Having an overcast at past 70% will auto rain. Right around 50, I think, is random chance of rain. Increase the rain even further. Obviously, this results in push drops. Every time you change the weather to it, does a slight change, so something like that. So be cautious of that. Alright. Disable respawn. Pretty obvious button. The very last one we're going to go over, which we have to go over a little bit more in depth, is mission settings. Mission settings. Resistance hostility. This is your independent faction. Are they going to be hostile to both factions? Are they only going to be hostile to east? Or only hostile to west? If they're hostile to east, that means they're friendly to west. If they're hostile to west, it means they're friendly to east. Pretty obvious. You can change this up. It's really cool if you want to have like turncoat factions, things like that. Mid-mission, anyways. Be very cautious of going, we want to embed our guys in a friendly unit and then turn them anyway at the last second. So be cautious with doing stuff like that. Teleport to team. I generally leave this on disabled. Basically, this allows you to teleport back up to your team. You can say always. You can say right after respawn, which is, I believe, like a minute or so after respawn up to, and then like a little bit after you join. Save gear. Basically, if they die, do save. You generally want to keep disabled if you have a medical system on. Show MCC messages. Generally want to leave this disabled, otherwise people are going to be spawning stuff down here. They'll get all the MCC messages. Yay. Name tags. If you have a name tag system, you can leave it disabled. Like AGM has a name tag system. Same thing with ST HUD. Artillery computer, you can enable disable, so players can't use that. Group markers. Generally enable. It's roles. It's only when you're playing with roles. Role selection, anyways. Time acceleration, if you want to accelerate time. This is for the MCC Council, and then this deletes player bodies after they respawn. Generally, you want to leave this disabled because you want people to loot their friendlies for ammo if they can. This stuff's council, it's pretty obvious. Anyways, general AI skill. This one is the one that is very... This is very important, setting this up properly. My settings that we currently use. This is what I normally set our guys to. Yeah, with general of 80, aiming of rookie, spotting of 80, commanding of 60. If you're wondering why I use this, I have a bunch of AI scripts running that actually increase their accuracy in other regards on the server. So putting them at rookie doesn't make them bad shots. It just means they're going to shoot a lot more. Specifically, the machine guns will shoot a lot more, they'll pepper more areas without directly hitting. However, if you move around in combat, you'll be shot a lot. So, be careful on jacking this up to veteran, as all it does is literally, as you go higher, it stops becoming so much about aim skill and it turns into aim hack. Like veteran, literally, it's aim hack. It's point and click. They will shoot you if they see you first, which is not enjoyable. Spotting skill, basically is how fast they can spot you, how far they can spot you, if they can hear you, all that wonderful jazz. Command skill, the higher up this is, the more they'll command units to do certain stuff. This is individual commander, generally not Gaia. Gaia does kind of go off this a little bit, but it's mainly off the individual commander. So the squad leader when they're in groups. And then general skill. This has certain levels in it. Past a certain level, they'll start using grenade launchers and grenades and stuff like that, or anything like that. You need a veteran mark. So 80 is a good area to find to start using off at, though. Smoke flares, how much if they'll use them, how much they'll use them. Cache distance is what we talked about earlier. How far from a player must they be to cache, so you can be like, oh, you have to be within 500 units for the AI to spawn, or you can be within 5,000. So, depends on your server. I believe ours at 2,500. Gaia controls. You can have Gaia control every single AI on the island without setting up zones. Be careful setting that up. That's all I will say. And then artillery delay. Basically, this is how much AI can call an artillery. So if I give the AI artillery, I can say they can call it once every 10 minutes. And then game mechanics. We leave all of these disabled because we have a different system that allows us to vault and use code. If you don't have like AGM, basically overwrites all of these. Survival. I actually haven't screwed around with yet, so I cannot speak to the validity of it's fully implemented or not yet. Then interaction just allows the interaction and new stuff. Press confirm, it saves mission settings. Thank you for watching this tutorial on MCC Interface.